Thank you all for being here, and I'm going to go over today how to proposition. Propositioning is sometimes a word that is misused, but today we're going to be focusing on how do we proposition to actually strengthen our organization, strengthen the base, but also to build power also. Right before we hit the record button, I asked everyone, how many of us ever felt like people have just asked us to do stuff, but they did like it didn't really it wasn't clear, and we walked away sometimes even more confused. But then when they did try to um, ask us, or then they check in with us, some things might not have been the best. But we like, well, I did what you asked me to, and it was just unclear. I mean, anybody felt like that before? You experienced that before? All right. So, and again, you do not have to have your camera on. I'm fine with that, but I will call on you. And if you don't, if you're, like SAS told me, like told me that they will be off and on. They'll be doing other stuff, so it's all good. So I like to be interactive. That's all. All right. So, I'm sharing a document with you all in the chat. You all should be able to access it, and we'll make sure for those for the recording that people will have access to this. This is something that I created, but the materials and information I did not create myself, right? So the words and things like that, I didn't create the words per se, but I created this document to make sure that that people can have something to look at, and I will provide the answer key as well. All right. So, uh, and by the way, also, lastly, maybe not for those recording, but I do have two screens, so I can see the chats, and then I can also see you all's faces still while looking at the information on the screen. All right. So if I'm not looking directly at my screen, I'm looking at the other screen. But don't worry, I still see all you all's beautiful faces and names. All right. Thank you, Tony. All right. So, um, and I see people are able to access this. You are more than welcome to create a copy of the document, so you can fill in yourself if you would like. You're more than welcome to do that. Okay. And this is a copy of a copy. So if you want to just type in here, go for it. I don't care. Go for it. All right. So again, this is and this so the title of this document: proposing leadership and values-based organizing according to their self-interest, right? According to their self-interest. For those, I know there are recordings and there have been trainings around self-interest, so I'm not going to go over through that. But most importantly, you should know your own self-interest. You should know your own self-interest. Um, you should know why you signed up to be with Missouri, Respect Missouri voters. You should know why you are aiming and fighting to protect the ballot initiative. And if it's not around the ballot initiative per se, maybe you should know your self-interest when it comes to working with the whatever other organizations you might work with. Oftentimes we find people who are just doing stuff, just being busy sometimes, and they're not really clear on why they showing up or what they doing. And unfortunately, sometimes those individuals will either be misused or abused or underused as well. So make sure that you are clear on your self-interest. If you are not clear on what your self-interest is, then have a one-on-one with Garrett or Tony. All right. so 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 basically, and just to recap briefly, real quick, we have one-on-ones to deepen. I'm gonna make sure that I'm not providing you all wrong information as well. Uh, there we go. All right, to make sure we do a self-interest to deepen the public relationship. All right, the public relationship, deepen the public relationship. Uh, Sometimes it is good to know the private elements of somebody's life as well. That's okay. But we care about the public relationship and the current role in the relationship as well. Then number three on the page on the document, we ask the question, what strengths or qualities have they demonstrated? So when we're thinking about asking somebody to engage, we're asking somebody to be involved, we're asking somebody to take on a leadership role, we should start thinking about what strengths or qualities have they demonstrated. Um, what values? That's the next little question, right? What values do they care about? what issues or goals are they most motivated by? Also, we should know their self-interest. So it's important to know your self-interest and therefore when you're clear on your self-interest, you can also work to get other people clear on their self-interest. Um, but more importantly, like the values, just to bring that up real quick, right? What are the values they do care about? So when we're looking at thinking of different roles or positions or strengths or qualities that they've demonstrated, uh, if somebody has demonstrated that they appreciate and value structure and organization, they also appreciate the morale and having good vibes, right? Okay, I could see possibly propositioning somebody to be on the good vibes committee or the good vibes lane, right? So it's things like that show up and there are actually end up being important as well. All right. So just to I always like to try to check in too, make sure I'm not going too fast or even too slow. Any questions or comments, concerns before we move to part two? All right. All right. Thank you, Josh, for the head nod. Tony, we good? All right, good, we good. All right. Elaine, Kate, Jess, Saz, Madison. All right. Thank you, Madison. Thank you. Elena, is that correct? Names are sacred to me. I
Yeah,
always
yeah,
like to
yeah,
make sure
yeah.
okay,
It's
cool.
Elena.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
All righty. So moving on to part two, right? When we are clear on our self-interest and we see what their strengths and qualities are, uh, we also understand their values. Values meaning like, and you know, what issues or goals are they most motivated by? We understand these things and we have to like kind of think these things. We can then imagine a call or envision a role. This is part two for crafting the proposition about where you think they could be on, right? I already mentioned that a little bit. What board role, what ministry, perhaps for those who work in faith, but what task force, what committee, okay? And plan and practice the conversation. You can plan and practice a propositional conversation with somebody before you make the actual proposition for the person, right? So, for example, if I wanted to proposition Tony about a role, but I know that Garrett knows her better. I would say, hey Garrett, I want to practice this proposition with you, and I want you to you know Tony better than I know Tony. I want I want to practice with you to see how you think Tony would respond. So that helps sometimes too. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, so that's helpful. Okay. So then you craft the conversation. All right. This is to me one of the most important parts because so often people just sometimes again how many of you all have ever been propositioned?
Hello.
Hey, hey Zach.
I my car. Oh, hang
Oh, okay. All
He
right.
was answering the phone.
Got you. Got you.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah. So how many of y'all ever been propositioned and never saw the description or anything that somebody asked you to do? Anybody experienced that before? Yep. Madison. Yep. I have also. Um, they were like, "Oh, we want you to do this thing because we think you'll be really great at it." Like, what is this thing though? Like, I don't know what this thing is, right? So, like, this is part of the conversation that will eliminate a lot of the misunderstandings as well. All right. So the conversation, number one, schedule a time for a one-on-one to meet with the person. Um, that is in the self-interest of the organization or the role, right? Schedule a time. There's been so many times I've been propositioned while people are walking by. They, oh yeah, hey, DeMarco, hey, can you no, you didn't even thinking about me. Like this is haphazardly. Like no, I'm not doing this, right? So just we have to be mindful, and if we are serious about finding other people who are serious about making sure that we have solid people in certain roles, we should be able to show that we actually have taken the time to think about why this particular person is actually significant in this capacity. That eliminates a lot of turnover too, as well. All right. So number two, affirm who they are and the larger purpose of the mission. Affirm who they are and the larger purpose of the mission. Okay. So we want to make sure that This is another reason why we think about what have we seen. Okay, what have we seen them do? What qualities have we seen them do? Have we seen them be really good with money and finances, or even bring up really great questions about a certain topic, and or be able to connect with a huge amount of different people or something? Like we need to affirm that. Like, yo, I see that you are a connector. I see that you are somebody who understands finances better than the average person, right? I see that you somebody who's really committed in this particular area, right? And then connect how who they are with the bigger mission. Okay. So again, this is all part of laying out a proposition. Number three, clearly name the leadership role you're inviting them to. Clearly name it and explain what support they'll receive. Be specific. Outline responsibilities and a timeline of the role. I outline this probably should be a separate point all by itself. Outline the responsibilities and a timeline of the role. Uh, Campaign work is a little different because we know that we need to get certain things accomplished because we have established deadlines with elections. Okay. However, when we are still building up, sometimes there might be some internal deadlines or some internal timelines that we need stuff situated and figured out now, or at least within the next 2 weeks, or next 3 weeks. So make sure there's a timeline, all right? And include training that you will aid them to be successful. Include training that you think will aid them to be successful. If you think that, oh, this person might, struggle with some things, or this person may not have a great grasp of Google Docs. like I know, again, I remember like it's a Google Doc for everything, right? You might need to be trained in Google Docs. You might need to be trained in Mighty Networks or Concon, right? We need to make sure that training. And when we make the proposition, after we affirm who they are, connect them to the larger purpose of the mission, and we clearly name the leadership role and invite them into it, explain what the responsibilities and timeline will be, and even include trainings will be successful. You ask and then be quiet. Don't keep talking. Don't just let people marinate, let people think, let it process. Just be quiet. And you have a pleasant demeanor, have a smile on your face when you, yeah. And this is why we would like for you to step into this role. What do you think about that? And just be quiet. Um, so that way it gives people a time to process, and it also allows people a chance to not feel like they being bombarded, right? We just kind of threw a bunch of information at them. Um, and they might need, and then we get to number four, listen and be ready to negotiate. Number four, listen and negotiate. Okay. Uh, Listen and negotiate. So acknowledge and address obstacles. This is another reason why you may want to practice with somebody else before you actually proposition that particular person. Okay. Learn, because oftentimes we are prepared. We think like, okay, this person would be great. This person will do a really good job. And in this role will require somebody to be present 5 days a week from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. every day. Okay. And then somebody's like, I can't do 5 days a week, but I can do 3. You got to be clear on, is that something that's acceptable? Is that something that that can we is there a flexibility in that role? And if not, so that may not be the person then, unfortunately, right? If we have certain roles and certain like strict parameters, and that person can't fulfill them, having somebody halfway semi filling that role could be. I'm not saying it's always guaranteed be, but it could be distracting. It could be just it create more hiccups because the role itself needs somebody to be there 5 days a week, but we only got somebody who can be there 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and that's still going to leave a gap or a hole. So acknowledge and address those obstacles. Name what you think they're. So this is if you know their self-interest, and without going too much detail, right? If you know their self-interest, hopefully that means there's been some type of relationship already. As Tony shared right before we press the record button, relationship organizing, right, is extremely important. Name what you think their fear or obstacle is if they actually like negotiate away from the position. If you have enough of a relationship, just ask them, like, yo, what's your concern? What's your biggest fear? You can actually ask them that. Like, what is your biggest fear? That's the next line for number four. In number four, what's your biggest fear? I once knew somebody who did not want to be the or your biggest concern, biggest fear, biggest concern, right? They did not want they were like the number two in an organization. But they also were part of establishing said organization. They've been there since the beginning. The number one, the executive director of that organization, though, was so charismatic, was so well known, had so many different type of connections already. And when somebody propositioned the number two person to take over for the number one when they resigned, the number two was like, no, nope, I don't want to do it. No, thank you. I like what I'm doing. No, thank you. And shrunk. They shrunk. So then that organization had to go and spend ooh over close to $100,000 to find a replacement for the executive director. The executive director ended up resigning 6 months later, and we were right back at they were right back where they started from. And finally, somebody asked the number two person, "Yo, what's your biggest concern about taking on the role? Because you've been here since the beginning." And then that's when they shared, "Oh, I just don't feel I'm charismatic enough, and I don't have the same type of relationships that the other person did." And somebody was able to counter that and share, "Hey, you've been here since the beginning." So they affirmed who that person was. You've been here from the beginning. They also provide that timeline. You understand the responsibilities. You also have filled in as interim before. So, like, what we got to negotiate? And they actually needed a little more pay, but then they also needed a little more family time because they recognized they spent so much time away from their family. Right? That's what their concerns was. After addressing those things, oh, yes, you know what? Fine, yeah, I can be the executive director. Actually, good, can, right? But then number five, we get into this area for number five, clarify and push for agreements, next steps, and a plan for accountability. A plan for accountability. I've seen several organizations who have some of the best leaders, like phenomenal leaders, and they are able to execute at such a high level. It's amazing. Like, man, it's amazing. But there was no plan for accountability. So the organization ended up being like an octopus on roller skates, a world of activity, but not really going in any direction. There was no like, okay, how do you hold this person accountable? How do we hold this person accountable? How do we know this person is actually being successful or not? And what are we going to do if we recognize like, hey, this we've given this super amazing, charismatic, well-known, loved, appreciated person like 20 chances. 20 chances, and they're just not showing up. We have to have a plan for accountability. Okay, so that has to be included in that in when we're thinking about propositioning people. All right. And then after those negotiations and discussions and accountability plans, all those different things, and this don't have to take a long time, by the way. And again, the more you like pre some of these things, like pre-establish some of these things, then the faster and quicker they go too. Right. So then number six, you close by restating what's been agreed, why they are the right person, and then and evaluate the conversation with them, right? Like, hey, how you think this went? How you think that goes, right? So yeah. So before I go any further, I know I've said a lot, pretty quick, fast. Any questions, comments, concerns, even whole disagreements? Because I'm here to learn from you all as well. I'm just going fast because I know it's Sunday. I'm trying to give people give them their Sunday back. That's all. Yeah, Tony, you on mute.
Thank you. So how does all of this apply differently to volunteers?
It don't. It don't. Because when we're thinking about volunteers, we're asking them, it's something about volunteers that we, so this is, so let me slow down and speed up. When you say volunteers, what aspect of volunteers are you thinking about?
Okay, so let me give an example. The guy
Yes.
you were talking about who's super effective and a high achiever, he's getting stuff done. That makes me think he's doing things that need to be done. But he's not, you're saying he's not fulfilling the role he was assigned. Should he get a new assignment if he's a volunteer?
Yes. That's also where, so thank you for that question as well. And thank you for asking for clarity too. So I think this is where when we do have some people who, if they are getting certain things done, this is where the accountability comes in, right? Not just the accountability, but then also the responsibilities, right? If they actually are achieving those responsibilities, okay, cool, right? And are they achieving them according to the timeline? Because even with volunteers, again, especially with campaigns, specifically with campaigns, even more dire with campaigns, we got timelines. Like we don't have like somebody say, "Hey, I need somebody who got relationships with let's keep it let's make it more personal here for RMV, right? Um oh, I need somebody who has relationships with the NAACP chapters across the state of Missouri. We don't have time for somebody to, oh, I'll call him and I'll see if I can get a coffee with him in a few months. No, no, that's not, no, that's cool. Like, okay, great. You know how to build relationships, but we need somebody who actually have relationships now, right? And so that should be one of the things like, hey, I see that you actually have relationships across the board, and I see you know how to get people moving fast. This is why I'm asking you to blah blah blah, right? Like, I think that's one of the elements. So whatever the responsibilities are, along with that timeline, and then the accountability. All right. And we'll get into like some of the elements around reflection and evaluate the performance in a second. But when it comes to volunteers, that's also very important why you listen and negotiate. I don't know about I can't not I'm not you, Tony, but I've conversed with some people who are fired up, ready to go. And when we ask them to do stuff, they'd be like, maybe. No, I don't really want to do that. But we still want to try to get them like, no, but you're really great at this. And we just, if we just keep saying, come on, please, 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 some people will just cave in. But there's also, they already reluctant. I don't like reluctant volunteers. I don't like reluctant. I don't like uh uh volunteers who have resentment, you know. And especially since we do a lot of stuff virtually also. I think it's even more important around the relational organizing, right? And like the aspect of people who have resentment towards, oh, this person kind of pressured me into it, but they might not even say they use the word pressure. We don't pressure people to do anything, but sometimes some people are really hard to say no to as well. Some people are really hard to say no to, so they'll just go along with it, and then they still end up like, okay, yeah, that's cool, you know, but they not committed. They haven't agreed to the responsibilities and to be held accountable as well. Yeah,
So I don't feel that you can force volunteers into that position. I mean,
correct. I don't want forced volunteers into positions either. I don't want to force them. I agree. So this goes back to the very beginning. If we're thinking about propositioning somebody for a particular role, this also is different than, hey, we need this role filled. Who want to do it? Like this is completely different from that too. You know. I want to get Saz got their hand up.
Yeah, I just would love to add a little thing. This concrete example happened recently. Luke had expressed interest in becoming a co-chair with the tech support department, and I wasn't able to get to that conversation until a couple weeks later. But in that time, I had noticed that his capacity seemed to have become fully filled up. And so during that conversation with him, I explicitly said, I want to give you an opportunity to tell me that you no longer have the capacity that you did when you expressed interest in this a few weeks ago, and that you're no longer interested in this spot. And that was really helpful for him to by explicitly opening up that opportunity to say no. That empowered him to make a better decision for himself very easily without having to be nervous about it.
Yes. Yep. I agree. I agree. And so there, and even, and let me also be clear. Thank you for that, Saz, too, right? And for that great example. Um, even when we do go through all these different steps and plan all this stuff out, there still is going to be times where we still need to renegotiate, recalibrate, check in with people as well. But that's part of it. Like the accountability will be, hey, we'll do a 1 week check in or something, right? Right. That's the part. And if that person is missing the check in every week, like, hey, you agree that we could check in every once a week. And we negotiate that, right? It may be once every other week, right? It may be like Benj and I still have a weekly check-in, right? And we hold each other accountable for that, right? So it's different things that can be done. But yeah, no, we do not want to force anyone to do anything, and we don't want to force. And nowhere on this document do we say force somebody into a position. This is and especially negotiating and accountability. Also, and I'll just say this too. If somebody does not want to be held accountable, again, to me that's scary because we're depending on people to accomplish whatever they said they're going to do. Right? And if somebody's like, oh, I'll get around to it. Oh, no, I didn't get it. I didn't do it. My bad. Like we should know our self-interest when it comes to what we're working on. And hopefully they understand their self-interest. And the fact that we are on here on a Sunday, but then others will be rewatching this as well. They understand the dire consequences of what's happening within our democracy, within our everyday lives. They understand. For example, I literally went to an event or to a place yesterday that supports people who've been experiencing trauma. And they would get federal grants. They lost $2 million of federal money. $2 million. They support people who have trauma from whether it's bullets, from natural disasters, from so many other. They lost $2 million. People who are literally taking money away, right? So it's the dire consequences that we have to understand. So if we have somebody who just going along with the flow, like I would say shame on us, for allowing that to occur, right? But again, we don't want to force them anyway. So thank you for that. Any other questions, comments, or concerns as well? It's all good. Yep, Josh, thank you. All right. All right. So moving right along, you all can actually practice this now if you want to, right? Or for those who view on the recording, again, you'll be able to have the document available. And so you can try it out. Again, this is a whole another reason why you can practice it too with somebody else. I'll get into an example later about that, but basically you can write, person I'm planning to proposition. Somebody that you've seen do stuff, seen that they've been active, they're showing up consistently in some capacity or another, and who that person is. All right. Then relational organizing element. Have you done a one-on-one and developed a relationship with that person? Right? Have you done that? And if you haven't, you should probably go do a one-on-one. In the long-term organizing development, we say that you should never proposition somebody on your first time doing a one-on-one. You should not do that. Okay. Within campaign world, where we have a short amount of time to get a lot accomplished, right? It's okay to at least have some type of a one-on-one with them, to have some sense of a relationship. All right. And proposition them at your one-on-one because it's campaign, right? It's not long-term organization building, it's campaign building. So have a one-on-one with that person, still have this in mind. And you can even say, I would like to have a one-on-one with you because I see something, I see your potential, and I see that you actually might be a good fit for a particular role, but I'm not sure yet. Okay. So that is a distinct difference. If you can set up the one-on-one, but also let them know why you want to have a one-on-one. And of course, be mindful of the jargon. I would like to sit down with you to learn more about why you're super excited about the campaign and to see what role might be the best for you. But you should have some things in mind as already, if possible, right? In campaign world, you may or may not be able to get very clear on the person's self-interest. Okay. But one of the things I've learned, I'll use it kind of like a shortcut, um, is I ask the person, why is this campaign important to you? Right? I ask that question, and then I ask them, how will winning this impact your life? Will it impact your life? It may or may not. This is also why we ask these questions to get them thinking, like, how will this actually impact my life? Right? And if they are able to answer that question, then you can also ask them, hey, how do you think this will impact your life or your future if this doesn't get passed? So, like, we're not here to we're not using fear mongering. We're not using scare tactics. We're asking them, what's the dire consequences? So regardless if somebody's a volunteer, paid, semi-paid, part-time, spare time, like there are real life dire consequences for certain things not being achieved, not being accomplished, not being completed. So that's how we can get a little clearer without getting deep into understanding the person's self-interest. All right. So those 3 questions, they're not on the document, but hey, why is this campaign important to you? Hey, how do you think your life will be impacted if and when this wins and passes? All right. Or if this candidate wins and passes or whatever, like if it's talking about candidates or whatever. But also then, hey, if this doesn't pass, how does it impact your life? Have you thought about that? Again, we don't have to use the tools of the oppressor. We're not fear mongering. We're not saying your life is going to be terrible. We don't even have to tell them that. I think that's another thing. We don't have to tell people like, we got to do this because it's really important and blah. No, like, what do you think? Let them convince themselves. We don't convince. We let them convince themselves. So then you practice like my proposition specifically, right? So therefore, remember, like, if they need some training on something, if there's a particular role, what's the time commitment? What's the responsibilities of the role? And what does success look like? Okay, what does success look like for that role? I think that's one of the key parts of a lot of things. It's one thing to have a person that's really good at stuff, but it's the role that we're asking them to be good at. We need that role to be fulfilled, and that role has to be very, very well done, right? So we got to make sure responsibilities of the role, and sometimes it takes us to slow down for us who are the creators and curators of roles to like, hey, let me think about this role and make sure this is clear, as well, and make sure it's not being duplicated, things like that, right? So now self-interest, the proposition is in there, self-interest because, so we asked that if we know the person, if we had a one-on-one, why is this proposition in a self-interest? I know, for example, I'm using this as an example. I know that SAS, hopefully you don't mind me asking, you don't mind me utilizing you as an example. I know SAS, one of the elements, like SAS is not from Missouri, correct? You're not from Missouri, correct?
Correct.
Correct, right? But SAS also like understands that democracy threatened anywhere, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, right? But also SAS understands that they are learning and growing and getting certain skills, so they can also conduct and do spread this and go to other spaces and places and build up themselves so they can become stronger and more powerful and understand how to change democracy for the better for the long haul. This is one of the reasons why SAS is like, I'll do whatever needs to be done. I'm gonna learn how to do it. I'm gonna take time to learn how to do it. I'm gonna spend more time than any of y'all to do it as well. Right? But we don't want to take advantage of SAS. We don't want to do that. Right? We don't want to do that, SAS. We don't want to take advantage of SAS. But also we need to be clear on why SAS is in our self-interest. Because we don't want SAS burning out. We don't want SAS crashing out, as the young folks say. We don't want SAS crashing out. That's no good. Right? So this person is in our self-interest for a reason as well. We gotta be clear on that. Come up, think of the obstacles for the proposition and plan to address the obstacle. Okay. That's pretty much propositioning in a nutshell. I've changed a few things because of campaign reasons, right? But that's pretty much it. It's like proposition. Yep. Thank you.
Jerry Flurries.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Tony. Thank you. So one thing I often share with people too, I have a minor in chemistry. Oh, thank you, Jess. Thank you. I have a minor in chemistry. And I learned that there's 1 degree difference between water and steam. 1 degree, right? So just turn it up just a little bit. All of these stuff, propositioning for roles and positions, you do the same thing when it comes to finances and money. For working to get people to get to invest in the campaign, to support the campaign, to donate into the campaign. The same thing. Why would this person care about investing their money and their dollars into this campaign? We should be clear on that. You know, we can also, and this is people that we know, people that we have some type of relationship with, because relational organizing. But then if we know that if we get certain lists from different people, from different groups, different orgs. For example, I know that there's been some discussion from some of the previous like ballot initiatives with different leaders from those ballot initiatives. We definitely know that they have a clear self-interest because the ballot initiative keeps getting attacked. So we know that they want to protect their wins or protect the ability to have this, right? So they may not have, and this is another great thing, for those who do not have a lot of time, they may not have a lot of energy, but they may have some money. So, hey, I know you're super busy. I know you the chair of this and president of that, and I know you may not be able to step in this role or be able to support a role that requires you to be present 5 days a week from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Can you support by investing this amount of money into it? Can you support this way? Right? So there's always a lane, there's always a space and place. And or even for those, and I appreciate I don't know Luke personally, but I appreciate even SAS bringing up the example. I don't know Luke, right? But let's say Luke is somebody who is excited, is jovial, got energy, but don't have the time, don't have the energy. Hey, Luke, you seem pretty solid. Hey, do you mind if you can, do you mind like seeing if you can connect us with other people who you think may be able to handle the position as well, or introduce us to some other people who may be able to fulfill this position? Like you can literally ask them to be recruiters for you too. All right. So it's so many different ways that we don't want to just box people out and drop people off or leave people. We don't want to just drop them. We want to make sure we are opening up a space and place. And I really like that SAS mentioned, like, hey, I just want to make sure that this isn't the role for you. Like, I think this is the role for you, but I see some challenges and whatnot, right? Okay. Hey, we still looking for the position. Do you know anybody else? And or do you know anyone who you think will be interested in funding the efforts? Let's perfectly question that. And it's like, do you know anybody? Are you willing to connect us, right? We're not saying, man, hey, if you can't do this position, you better connect us to somebody who got some money then. Like, nope, we're not forcing them. No, that's strong arm tactics. We're not doing that. Not respect Missouri voters because we actually respect Missouri voters. You know. So yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns, whole disagreements? All right. Is there anyone that would like to try one out? Would like to practice? All right.
I mean, can anybody think of a reason that trying a proposition with DeMarco here would be in your interest?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Josh?
Yeah. I'd go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yep. Just give it up for Josh. Give it for Josh. Give it up.
Yeah. Do the wiggles, baby.
Okay.
All right.
How do you want me to handle it? Do you want me to just like jump into a proposition or?
Yep. So tell us who the person is. Or so you can use initials. You ain't gotta say the person's name. You know, and so you can just use initials. And who would you like to pretend that they are that person?
Let's do Garrett.
All right.
All
So
right.
Garrett's gonna pretend to be the person you're propositioning.
All right, cool.
And because Josh, because we are making this up on the spot, you are more than welcome to improv, you know. So if you say blue hat, Garrett better go along with blue hat. Okay, Garrett, don't be saying what hat. No, like he just said blue hat, Garrett. Go with blue hat, man.
I know how to yes and. We
I
good.
was gonna say
All right.
we're yes anding. Perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Hey Garrett, how's it going? Thanks for coming.
Oh, hey, Josh. Thanks. Yeah, good to be here.
Good. Thank you so much for everything you've been doing. It's been really cool since you've started to see how quickly you've kind of picked up. It's been really exciting for me, especially showing up last minute for that presentation at Manchester United. Thank you for agreeing to organize some more with the people, with the contacts we made there. And then again, too, I noticed that our last meeting that you did a great job of just kind of on your own connecting with other volunteers and planning that out. So just kind of
Thanks.
want to take a second, say thank you for that.
Yeah.
I wanted to take a moment too to kind of just chat a little bit and get a feel for why you're here. What is it exactly? I know you're angry about Missourians not being represented in our government, but more specifically, what is it that brings you here to make a difference about this?
I mean, it's just it's frustrating, you know. We keep voting for things, and our representatives just like keep ignoring it, keep like straight up overturning it. In the last couple that just happened like a month ago, is just the latest, you know. Yeah, it's like it bothers me every single time that it happens.
Yeah, I mean, especially the most recent ones. I mean, it's infuriating. It's wild that it just keeps happening over and over again. Are
Yeah.
there like any of those or that are particularly affecting you or your family?
Yeah, I mean, Prop A was a big deal for me. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I know I was talking to my mom a while ago and had an interesting conversation where that she found out from me live that our legislature was trying to undo that. Uh, and she runs admin for her company. And she was
yeah,
like, "Wait, I'm doing all this work to get sick leave added to our books, and that's just gonna not happen." I'm like, they're certainly going to try to make it not happen. Where even though
yeah.
everyone already thinks it's happening, the law passed, we voted for it, and they're just going to kind of undo it, and they just get to. But yeah, thank you. Thank you again so much for being here. I wanted to ask if you would potentially be interested in taking over as the St. Louis Regional Outreach Director.
Oh,
Just as you've been doing that work, we can talk a little bit more about details and what that would look like.
yeah. I mean, what would that look like? What all is involved?
So a little bit, mostly kind of what you've already started picking up is making sure that we are present for and prepared for any presentations and events at other organizations. And then it would also be just coordinating the rest of the St. Louis team, who you've met a handful of, but I'd make sure to get you in touch with everyone. And it would be hosting a weekly Zoom call. Like you've heard me say this, but the idea is to get to a place where our weekly outreach call is a place for new outreach members to be onboarded and a place for our regional directors to touch base. And then the idea would be that you're hosting a Zoom call once a week with just the St. Louis outreach team to actually coordinate the nitty-gritty details. That way we don't have to have the entire state team involved in those conversations. Otherwise, it would be kind of, if something comes to Tony or I, or, the outreach email that is specifically in your region in St. Louis, we can bounce that to you. And you can either handle it directly or bounce it to your outreach coordinator or someone else on your team. And we just want to make sure we're empowering our volunteers in St. Louis to give those presentations, find new organizational relationships, and show up at events to pass out flyers and collect signups.
Okay, so this would be if we needed to give a presentation, I would do it, or I would find somebody to do it. And it sounds like I would be responsible for keeping track of the events and presentations going on around town. Is that right?
Yep, and making sure just that we're you said keeping track. I was going to say making sure we're keeping track, but that's exactly what you said. So yeah, and like, you've seen us harp on all of these spreadsheets and stuff, the events by region, etc. So making sure that we're getting those entered, making sure we're getting new organizations entered and marking them down. We've really been trying to start focusing on those metrics and stuff. So being able to get those for your specific region would be huge too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind doing that. I got plenty of time right now, when my wife's away from home.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Awesome. Let's see. I'll shoot you an email with some of what we've talked about. And there are a few volunteers on the St. Louis outreach team who I don't think you've met, who haven't necessarily been at the last couple of meetings. So it'd be great if you could touch base with them for me as kind of initial plan to get started. And then also, if you could let me know within, let's say by next Thursday, if you could have, or by this Thursday at our weekly outreach meeting, if you could have a time set for the St. Louis outreach team's weekly meeting, that'd be fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, I can probably do that. Evenings, do you think, or would those be best?
Yeah, generally it seems like people are most available for meetings and in the evenings. If it works best for your team, the weekends, we're not trying to set anything in stone. Whatever's going to work for the team that you've got in St. Louis.
Okay.
And also just a quick note that I've noticed with our other regional directors is if your meeting ends up being a 40-minute meeting, no one needs to worry about having host abilities or planning a longer Zoom session, and that seemed to work really well for Amy and Nancy so far. So just establish that. So
yeah,
a 40-minute call weekly.
Yeah, I don't mind running a weekly meeting. I've done plenty of that in my time, so I can do that. Sure.
Okay, awesome, cool. Thank you so much. I'm really excited for you to be doing this. I think you're a great fit for it.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to have you here to help making a difference in Missouri.
Yeah, me too. We'll touch base later.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Garrett.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna
Josh
just
and Garrett, give it up. Good job. How are you feeling, Josh?
I feel good about it. I'm just gonna take that recording and send it.
All right.
Be like, hey, imagine we had this conversation. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
No, this is yeah. So, what did you feel you did well, Josh?
I feel like I touched base on establishing like why I think he's the right fit. specific examples on the work he's done. I think I covered kind of the expectations for what we might need from him, like what is covered by the role, how much extra time it might take from, based on what he's already doing. So I feel pretty good about that.
All right. All right. Yep. I'll get to you in a second, Miss Tony. Garrett, how do you feel about it so far? How do you feel about the proposition?
I mean, it felt like it was clear to me, and you were prepped with like the handful of for the handful of questions that I asked. So I think you did solid. I just don't, I don't know the real guy. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's one thing that I'm not sure if you said it or not, and it's okay. Okay, it's okay because we're practicing right now. I don't know if Garrett, I don't know what his biggest concerns are or any fears. Like, what is his concerns about the role and the position? That might be something that, like Miss Tony's bringing up. Like, hey, yeah, that sounds good, and we're gonna meet again. Yeah, but like he could be saying, "Ah, man, I don't know about all that," like as well. So that could be part of it too, right? But that's why we asked that. That's exactly why we asked. Hey, do you have any concerns or again, I try to use the word concern versus the word fear, but any concerns about the role or things like that as well. Yeah, yeah. Also, I know Garrett, Saz, and definitely Benj has put in a lot of effort and work on establishing the roles and what those look like as well. So whether you're meeting virtually or in person, it could be helpful to just bring up like, hey, you know what? I want to just walk through this role that's already defined, versus trying to because I'm not gonna lie, Josh, like for me, like like by the time you got done talking, I was like, I'm just gonna say yes because he said like 10 different things. I don't know what he just said, but I know I'm already doing stuff, and I feel if Josh is coming at me, I know I feel confident that he thinks I can do the job. I don't know what all those things were, but sure, right? Sometimes it's
Okay.
just helpful just to have something on the screen or like, hey, I would like to go over this role with you and just go through the role, especially if it's already
Yeah.
created. So that could be helpful as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can definitely pull up the department structure document we have and
Yep.
kind of here is the role broken down by bullet points.
Yep, yep, and that way too. Then he'll also have they will also have something to
Yeah.
visually look at, and then he can even say, "Hey, bullets points 1 through 7, solid. Number 8, like that could be where some of the things come up as well." Yep, good job, good job.
Awesome.
Yeah, good job. What else I was gonna say? Yeah, so so that's great. Yeah, man, yeah, like that's really good, and it's needed. It takes time, but keep working on it. Um, Madison said that they can be a fake person if they want. If somebody wants to practice a role play again, um, just letting it. Just I don't want to miss that opportunity. Madison is offering up if somebody wants to, or Madison, if you would like to proposition somebody, that'd be great as well. So. But if not, it's all good. So yeah. So oh, go ahead, Madison.
Oh, I was going to say I can give it a shot. Like trying
Okay.
to approach somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um
Who's like the proposition?
well, I guess like right now I'm trying to get more people involved in the Good Vibes group. So I guess I could just do like a general would you want to be involved in the group sort of proposition?
All right.
Or I don't know, do I need to does it need to be something more specific?
So when we're propositioning again, this is for roles, right? A role with responsibilities and titles and things of that nature.
Mhm.
You know, um, I think, let's we can pretend as if somebody said, yes, I want to be in the Good Vibes. Like you gave a blast, a shotgun approach, and somebody said yes, they raised their hand, and then you have your
Uh-huh.
one-on-one with them. We can probably you can, because there are multiple roles with even within Good Vibes, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think that I don't know. Technically, maybe there are people in the few defined roles that we have right now, but we are also like trying to grow as a group. So
Mhm.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but I could just kind of like make up a role basically.
Yeah.
I'm
Tony?
really eager to hear how Good Vibes is defining itself. Because I think that what we understood to be Good Vibes and maybe what Good Vibes is meant to be doing might be two different things. So I'm curious what you see the role of Good Vibes being, and what is the ask of people? What do you need people to do in Good Vibes?
So I see the role of Good Vibes as being about building building a culture that really recognizes volunteers, acknowledges the work that's being done, tries to make sure that people are engaged and coming back, so that we're maybe not having the issue of people feeling feeling like they don't find a connection when they come in, and then kind of just sort of end up not doing anything because they don't really know where to go or what to do. And, you know, maybe enough time goes by that they go, well, I guess that just wasn't for me or something, and then stop, um, you know, engaging. And then, so as far as like roles within Good Vibes go, you know, we have our co-chairs, and then we have people that are doing some activities like social media moderation or volunteer spotlight posts and things in like the newsletter. We're still trying to, I feel like we're still building more of the infrastructure for recognizing volunteers and doing that in a way that is really meaningful and, you know, really shows appreciation. Not that, you know, calling people out or like shouting people out on social media and calls, I'm not saying that does nothing, but also we're trying to find like more ways to do that. And that's why I think it's important to bring more volunteers in, because then that's going to bring in more ideas, but then also have more people to implement our ideas too. Because with the voter, I keep saying voter instead of volunteer this weekend. I don't know why I've been doing that. Anyway, with the volunteer recognition, yeah, we're going to have, you know, we will have to bring in more organization of how are we going, you know, who are we reaching out to? How are we deciding which, you know, volunteers to reach out to? Are we going to base it on, you know, how many people they've gotten signed up or a fundraising thing or whatever? But whatever our decision is, right now, I'm just taking nominations. So, which is fine. I think that's nice, but it's also like there could be someone out there who's not getting nominated that's doing a million things, and someone has just forgotten to nominate them. So we definitely don't want to like keep it that loosey goosey. Anyway, and then once that, you know, structure is in place, then we will need probably a few people to make sure that if we're going to be sending out Respect Missouri voter stickers, or if we're going to be, you know, sending badges to them on Mighty Networks or whatever, that we have plenty of people keeping an eye on that, making sure that that's working smoothly and that, you know, the recognition is happening. So yeah, I might not have like a specific role in mind, but that is what I'm wanting: people who want to be in the recognition culture engagement space.
Okay. So then, Madison, let's practice. Let's practice you asking somebody to be specific around maybe sometimes maybe it's a particular task, right?
Okay.
'Cause this is what it sounds like too, right? Like, yes, you're part of the Good Vibes, and we need somebody to focus on this particular task.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
So who would you like to proposition?
Um,
Let's maybe Kate, Jess, or Elena,
okay.
maybe if they're available.
I can play.
All right. Thank you, Kate.
Okay. Um, okay, let me, okay. Hey, Kate, I've been seeing that you have been doing a lot on social media posts, and I noticed that you had done some really nice write-ups about an event that happened recently and the people that helped with the event. And I think that's a really great example of recognition that we're trying to do with Good Vibes. And I think that, you know, you are good at seeing people and, you know, clocking what they're doing and keeping that in mind. And I think that you'd be a really great addition to the Good Vibes group, and helping us with doing the social media posts and keeping track of who's being nominated for Volunteers of the Week. And, you know, just helping us track to make sure that those posts are getting out and that those people are being, you know, notified of their, or not being notified, but, you know, just being told about our recognition and appreciation of them and letting them know that they are going to be shouted out in the newsletter and on social media. Is that something that you feel like you have time that you'd be able to help Good Vibes with?
Yeah, I mean, I love watching all the cool stuff that everybody's doing, and I love talking with people. But you said something about keeping track or a list or something. What exactly is that about?
Yeah, we would have to give you access to a spreadsheet that is just tracking who has been nominated, or well, not who has been nominated, but who has been acknowledged in social media, on social media and in the newsletter. That way we don't accidentally repeat people, or repeat people too close to another time that they've been recognized, just because we want to make sure that everyone is getting a chance to be recognized for their efforts. But I would give you access to that, and then both of us would be in that, you know, tracking it to make sure that we're not repeating people.
Oh, okay. So it's just like literally just adding a name and a date to a list somewhere.
Yeah, it's a Google Sheets,
Okay, that
so
doesn't
it's
sound
not too
hard.
complicated. Yeah.
About how much time would you say, like per week, do you have in mind for working on something like this?
Honestly, I would say it depends a little bit on how quickly the people get back to you, because sometimes we will reach out and, you know, try to get a little information from them. Like I'll reach out and say, okay, you were nominated because of this one, you know, event or thing that you did, but what other things are you working on? Just in case we don't know, we want to make sure to highlight everything they're doing. Sometimes it takes a little bit for people to get back to you. Once you get that info, you're really just going into a Google document for the newsletter and then making a post in Canva for social media. So it might take a little longer at the beginning until you get comfortable with those, you know, get comfortable with Canva and everything. But I'd say once you're comfortable, I wouldn't expect it to take much more than an hour or two a week. And if it's easier, we could also try to alternate weeks. So, you know, I could do it one week, you could do it the next, because I know that you're probably also working in other groups too. So I think there's a way to do it where it's not going to be too time consuming for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds doable, and sounds like fun. But you'll be available if if I don't understand something or if I have any questions.
Yeah, for sure. And I can even set up a time if you wanted to, like we could hop on a Zoom call and I can share my screen and I can show you my process. And if you see a way that that could even be improved on and make it a little faster, that's great. But yeah, we can schedule like a one-on-one call and I can walk you through what I've been doing and then answer questions that way too.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like it'd be super helpful. I would love to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I will send you I'll send you a message through Mighty Networks to like see what times you're available the next week, and then I can get something set up on Zoom.
Perfect. Oh, I'm excited. This will be fun.
All right, great. Thanks. I'll follow up with you here in a little bit.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Right on. Great job. Great job. Great job. Yep. Madison, how you feeling?
I feel pretty good. I think that after having just talking to you guys about trying to find people for roles, it did kind of make me think that maybe that's something that I should look into in Good Vibes, is like maybe we need to look at more sort of like defined name kind of roles. You know, we don't have like manager or anything titles like that yet. Well, we kind of do. We kind of made like our own titles, but it might be good to make some that are open. You know what I mean? So that I can say, okay, it would be nice to have a person doing this role. So that way, when I approach somebody, I do have something more, I don't know, concrete set up to ask them to do.
Do you have
Yeah.
a roster that has those made up titles in it next to the person's name and their information, and maybe a list of some more made up titles that are things that you feel need to be roles that need to be filled?
Yeah, we have current like titles of people that are already doing things, but I don't think we have any like future or would be nice, you know, titles yet. But I think that that is probably something that would be good for us to talk about on one of our weekly calls.
Okay, right on, right on. Good stuff. Kate, how you feeling? How did that feel for you?
It felt fine. I mean, it felt a bit familiar. A few conversations that I've been on the Madison side of, and a couple where I've been on the side that I was just on. So I tried to make it feel natural. I don't know if it did for everyone else.
Okay, yeah. No, that sound good to me. Anyone else had any feedback or any input that they would like to share for Madison? Thank you for Tony already. Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, I think similar to kind of what happened in my conversation, and I feel that I definitely feel like this happens to me a lot, is that sort of you start talking about what the role is, and I find that I've been talking for a minute straight, just like you were saying, DeMarco, and now there's 10 things to say yes to instead of, like you said, Madison, that sort of like defined role. And so that was just kind of my only thought. It was that sort of could be helpful. Pull up the screen share an actual description of the role, and because totally. But by the time by the time it was time for Kate to say yes, it was kind of like, wait, the question came a minute ago or like a paragraph ago. But
Yeah.
Well,
And
and
this is
Kate,
also this is why we practice these type of things as well. Yep, Tony.
Kate agreed to fill in a spreadsheet, and then it felt like Madison changed the role to you're gathering the data that's going to go into the spreadsheet. So
Yep.
maybe Madison successfully upsold Kate, but it wasn't it felt like things changed.
Yeah. This is why we practice. This is why we write this. That's why I created a piece of paper, a document. You can write it out, type it out if you need to, right? Like so, yeah. Yep. Kate, I saw you come off of mute.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm good.
Okay. Yeah. So this is exactly why we practice these things. This is exactly why recognizing that, hey, maybe we do need to actually just have 2, 3 bullet points. If it started getting to 7 bullet points for one role, then maybe wait a minute. Maybe we need to pay somebody to do this, right? Like maybe we need to figure out how to raise more funds to make sure this position is paid, because this is a lot, right? So sometimes that also pops up, right? But that's one of the reasons why I created this document so people can practice and work with others and practice, and the more you get used to it, the more you will be more familiar with basically being able to have a proposition, be able to say something and be done. Real quick before we go into the debrief or evaluation, real fast, for those who can't come off mute, it's all good. But in the chat, is your favorite color red or blue? So Josh, your favorite color, red or blue?
You're muted.
Gosh,
Red, sorry.
Red. Okay. Tony, red or blue?
Red.
Red. Okay. Sass, red or blue?
I prefer blue over red.
Thank you. All right, Garrett, red or blue?
Red.
Red. All right. Elena, red or blue?
Blue.
Blue. Madison, red or blue?
Blue.
Blue. Jessica, red or blue?
Blue.
Blue. Kate, red or blue?
Blue.
All right. All right. I'm not gonna go with the easy one, but Jess, you say your favorite color is blue. Is that correct?
Yes, compared to red.
All right. Is your favorite color really blue?
No,
Why you say blue then?
I was given two options.
Exactly, right? The person who asks the questions has the power. All right. So yes, I appreciate those who say, "Oh, well, I prefer blue over red," right? And that still is the correct answer. But when I say your favorite color, is your favorite color red or blue? Yeah. So just how I asked a favorite color, but then somebody changed it to preferred, right? This is also how we could say something, but it's simply get changed. But then also, if we try to say, because it made me think of this when Josh mentioned that his text message that he planned on sending. He said, in the next few days. Next few days is really open. It's really wide. Josh, how much time do you have?
I've got the evenings.
Right. So so now so you're saying next few days, and you say, hey, you willing to meet next few days? Yeah, I can. If Flip comes back and say, yeah, I can meet during the daytime. No, you can't meet during the daytime. Now you're gonna do the whole back and forth, right? So one of the best things that I've learned to do is when it comes to my calendar, that's back to the very beginning of the training. What's your self-interest, but then also what's your calendar looking like? Right. So I was like, okay, when can I meet with Flip? Right. I need to look at that first. And
Yeah.
like, hey, Flip, I'd like to meet with you. And are you available on Monday or Wednesday in the evenings?
Yeah.
Right. So that's another thing that we can do to minimize our chaos. No, but then also to be just as crystal clear as possible and presenting. And again, and somebody might say, hey, Monday and Wednesday evenings don't work for me, but Tuesday and Thursdays do. Now we're negotiating. Like, oh, okay, I can look at Thursday, right? Like now we're back to negotiating. So again, so just make sure that if you all are asking people, and propositioning people, sometimes we do need. I'm not a big fan. Garrett knows this. I'm not a big fan of binary choices. I don't like it. My brain don't work that way. I'm an ambivert. I'm an intro and extrovert, right? So I don't like just being boxed in. I don't even like the title ambivert, to be honest, right? But still, here we are, right? Sometimes we have to make things like narrow and clear just to make sure that does this person understand what we're asking them to do, and are they actually agreeing to what we asked them to do? And that's another reason why we make sure we have the accountability portion, because I appreciate Tony bringing up the conversation with Madison and Kate, right? Madison asked the question and asked to step up to the role, and Kate agreed to something, and Madison went on something else. And if Kate didn't do that something else, then it seems like Kate might not be as successful, right? Like no, like but I did what you asked me to do, Madison. But where is this written out at, right? Where do we have this established? So sometimes that's why we have to make sure that we are crystal clear on what we're asking people to do, and also let them know what we're not asking them to do, but then also be able to actually present to them the choices that as a collective we need to be successful, right? So this is not about controlling people. This is not about eliminating their self agency. We have a goal, we have a timeline, we have dire consequences that we have to address. And that's exactly why we proposition people, and we are very clear when we want to meet with them, when we're available to meet with them, and what success really does look like. In that way, when we are able to successfully proposition people, we can then have more success in people who are taking on the roles, and because it's a lot of work, it's only gonna get more. Right. So I think we have to be really, really clear on that. So I'm looking forward. I can't wait to hear about the propositions you all have conducted, and I can't wait to hear about the propositions that you all had that were successful. And even some, it was like, I did everything you told me to do, DeMarco, and I went through the sheet and everything. I had everything. The person still said, no, thank you. That's going to happen. Okay. But that just lets us know that that person wasn't right for that role. Now, if you get 10 people declining the role, then we might need to reassess this role. Okay. So not people flaking out, because there are people who are signing up and hey, we like that. And they like it too, but something is not working in that particular role. So we may have to look at the role a little different. We might have to adjust, assess and negotiate how important is this role and why is it not why is the role not successful? Not the people, but the role itself. Why isn't it not like gelling the same way? Right. So that's the way we can focus on and still maintain the relationships and make sure that we are lifting up and magnifying the humanity in all this system virtual worlds that we living in. Yeah. So that's how we also enhance the humanity and lift up the best self of that person too. All right. Yeah. Tony.
I think that what Madison asked of Kate is an important role, but the larger function of the Good Vibes team is sort of what Garrett was just saying about lifting people up. Like you said, Madison, seeing people, catching what's really happening with them and addressing that and making sure people are happy in their roles, and that if they're not, that they have a way to deal with that. And like, there's an opportunity in Good Vibes to be therapists.
Yeah.
That can be an important role for the whole team.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Awesome. Sass? You came off mute. I just want.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. Garrett, would you like to lead the debrief, the evaluation?
Sure. All right, we're gonna start with a feeling word. Let's get one feeling word from everybody. I feel informed.
Enlightened.
Enlightened, empowered.
Empowered was my word before Sass said it.
Okay.
Prepared.
Prepared. All right.
Ready.
Ready. All right. Excellent. Okay. Let's go ahead and Sass, tell me more about the word empowered.
Well, like DeMarco said, we're going to go off and make some propositions. And it's just a great conversation to have, and like always helpful. An important part of making propositions is understanding the person you're talking to. And so seeing other people make propositions and seeing other people react to that is just really informative and helps to empower me further to make propositions in better ways than I have before.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Josh, did you have similar reasons for using that word?
Yeah, I mean, definitely similar. It's just prepared would go with it too. I feel like there is sort of this checklist from this sheet that I think is happening in the back of my mind as I think about someone being the right fit for a role and why and how I'm going to ask them. But I think it is really helpful for maybe a couple of people who that's a little bit less clear to me already on to literally go through this and like as we at one point I was like, wait, I should probably hold off on asking this person because I do not have any of this information. And so what that means is I just need to go have that one-on-one and get this information and then evaluate and move forward rather than trying to take a person and put them in a role because someone said it might be a good fit or they're present. But yeah.
All right.
Just having those steps feels like it's going to be helpful.
Having the tools to get the job done in an effective way.
Yes. All right, great. Let's move on to roles and investment. So DeMarco, you had the only role here as the trainer. How do you feel that you did?
I did not have the only role, and I'll get to that in a second.
All right, yeah. You had the biggest role, I should say.
Yes, there you go. All right. So this is actually my first time training propositions with the document that I created. So I made sure I looked over it. At the same time, I probably should have practiced a little more because I was a little disoriented at first. But I felt that I wanted to make sure that I heard you all's voices more than my voice. I think I did well on that. I did feel like I was talking a little bit too much at one point in time, trying to rush through the steps. But then I was really appreciative, and I was glad that I asked other people to practice and give people a chance to practice as well. So I think I did okay. I think I did pretty good.
All right. Okay, great. And does anybody want to invest in DeMarco with some constructive feedback? Something that he did well, something he could have done better? Yeah, Tony.
I want his document with all the answers in it.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to help
Okay.
me remember them.
Well,
'Cause I
go
filled in
watch
what I
the
could have
recording.
Yeah. I could have I should have gotten the document to Garrett to get to you all earlier on as well. So I could have did that as well. Yep.
Sass, you have some feedback?
Yeah, I thought you brought a really great energy that kept folks engaged and paying attention, kept me engaged even though I was doing other stuff. Um, I think there were some times where you were repeating yourself a little bit or repeating others a little bit, which is every human I've ever met has that problem. So that's not a unique to Marco problem. It's hard to catch yourself because you're like you really want to affirm something and then you say it and you feel like it's so big and so important. You feel like you need to keep talking about it. Like it takes more, but sometimes it really doesn't. And so we all need to catch ourselves on that. Uh, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
I think it could
Alright.
be cool if you like gave situations that people weren't actually going to do, because then maybe you're like more focused on the skill as opposed to just like learning for that exact situation.
Yep. Thank you, Jess.
All right, excellent. And
So-
Kate, you've got some feedback?
Yeah, actually, on the repeating thing, sometimes that's intentional, right? I mean, there's one of the meeting skills or whatever that I've learned through my employer, especially when you're assigning tasks to folks, is to define the task yourself and then ask them to say it back to you, so that you can make sure that they understand it the same way that you understand it. And if they say it back to you, and some things are like slightly different or not what you talked about, then it gives you a chance to say, oh yeah, like you got all of this, but on this point, remember that it's this way. And so the repetition actually serves a purpose in some cases.
Mhm. Thank you, Kate.
All right. And Josh, you've got some feedback as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily feedback for DeMarco so much as I thought it was really good. Garrett, after DeMarco made the ask if anyone wanted to participate, and everyone was kind of like, I'm just going to smile at the camera. Garrett said, hey, there's someone in the room right now who could benefit from practicing. So someone's going to do it. And so I don't know, maybe the feedback is a little bit more directly like the group activity is now we're doing this and who's first or something like we're sitting here until this happens because I was very much like I don't really want to do this, I just want to go have this phone call, but it's like but you know what, these guys are right, it'd be good for me to practice it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
And then other roles, we had people that were making propositions and improvising with them. So,
And I would say that Garrett had a
Oh, yeah.
role by actually filling in and maintaining the shared screen and putting in the answers in the document as well. So thank you, Garrett, for that. So
Yep. Yeah, and on that particular role, I feel like I did fairly well. After I started typing and it was in suggestion mode, I kind of wish that I had made a copy first that I could edit directly. So that's one thing that I could maybe take a little advance, preparation on. But that's the biggest thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody have feedback for me?
be good.
Thumbs up from several people. All right. And Madison appreciates DeMarco's empathy. All right. Excellent. Okay, and then Josh, you had a role practicing one of these propositions. How do you feel that you did?
I feel good about it. It took us a minute to actually get started on doing the practice run, but I think that's just something to practice.
Okay, Great. And anybody have investment for Josh? Constructive feedback. Yes, Sass.
Just and I guess this is repeating to reemphasize DeMarco's point back from the beginning is like I always like to pause and sometimes especially if I've been talking a lot, I'll say, so I want to make a direct ask. Would you like to be title of whatever? And then shut up. Because it's really easy for you to have a conversation with somebody where you're talking about it as if they've already said yes. But I've found it to be really important to make the explicit ask and have that prepared ahead of time and a really explicit simple ask, even if you've just spent an hour planning everything out and really like getting ahead of yourself. So just that clarity I find very important.
All right.
So
Yeah,
is it something where it's kind of, you know, we all know what we're doing in my department, and so it's just kind of come out and ask, make the direct ask, and then allow for questions, and then to get into the weeds of the details for the role?
The ask can come late in my,
Okay.
well, I'll defer to Marco. In my experience, the ask can come very late into the conversation.
Mhm.
If after you've gotten into the weeds, it just needs to happen. But DeMarco, maybe you disagree.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It just depends on one depends on your personal style, what makes make sure you're comfortable, and it also depends on who you're conversing with. And that's something you might actually look into. Like, do I need to say, hey, I think you ABC, we want this role is we all like to offer this role to you, right? Or does this person need to have A through Z and then offer, right? And that's just with that person. That's why it's intentional, and also again, that's why I repeat some words as well. Affirming who they are.
Yeah.
Affirm who they are. Yep.
all right.
Yep. So yeah.
Thank you.
Any other feedback for Josh?
No. Thank you for stepping up, and thank you for even suggesting like, hey, okay, we went through this and now we're going to practice it. So thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. And then I was Josh's partner. I feel like I did fairly well. Of like very quickly downloading the information about who this person was and trying to adapt. I could have done better probably if I'd, maybe taken down some actual notes instead of just relying on my memory of the last few minutes. But yeah, I think I did okay on that side. For me, it was just mostly reacting with like yes, no's, it felt like. So yeah.
Yeah. I
Any
think you did
feedback
well, and you actually did push back too. So you didn't just like, oh yeah, sure. Like you like, so what did all that entail? So you actually asked questions as well. And majority of the time when we are asking people to do certain things, they don't take notes, which is probably not a good thing. Like let's write this down, right? Like so that's why it's important to have something that people can look at it and see together. So yeah,
Yep.
man, you did good.
All right, thank you. Any other investment in me? Okay, that seems like a no. I will take the pat, Tony. Thank you. And Madison, also proposition somebody. Madison, how do you feel that you did in that?
I did okay, but I think it would be better. I mean, I think it would be better to prepare and have some things written down and, make some clear bullet points to go over instead of trying to,
Figure out
free style it. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Because you took the risk, now you have that plan.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. Yes.
Yep. And now you see the difference in how, and you actually uncovered something that is actually needed for the good vibes committee for the team. Like, oh, okay, we actually might need to, right? So, good job. Great job. Good is the enemy of great. So great job.
Thanks.
And any other investment in Madison? I also think you did a good job of rolling with it, you know, and I think it's okay sometimes to figure it out in the moment. You kind of like thought through it out loud with the group, and that helped you figure out what you were going to do. So I think that was a great way of going about it. All right. And Kate was Madison's partner. Kate, how do you feel that you did?
I probably could have done better. But I did try to make sure that I asked questions that I felt like were along the lines of questions that I have been asked when asking someone to do something.
All right. And anybody have investment in Kate?
That's a great point. Asking people if they have questions. That's how you
Yeah.
can get to, like, even not saying what are your concerns. Well, what are your concerns is another way, but do you have questions is an open way to invite them to share their concerns.
You know, it's in the category of check for understanding, which is what I was referencing about repeating things back, and asking questions also falls into that category.
All right. And Sass, you have feedback?
Yeah, I'd love to refine that last point. I used to take tables, and I learned on my own that it's really important not to say, "Do you have any questions?" but instead to say, "What questions do you have?" And that actually makes a huge difference in getting people to ask the question that's on their mind instead of questioning whether they should ask the question. It's a human thing. Yeah, I've found it to be very helpful in my life.
Excellent tip.
Love it.
Awesome. All right. And any other feedback from Kate or for Kate? All right. Fantastic. Okay, then moving on to tensions. What tensions do we have coming out of this training? Tensions can be good or bad. It can be something that we're nervous about, anxious about, or that we're anticipating or excited about.
I'm excited to go out and try it.
All right. Awesome. Any other tensions?
The flip side of this coin is I had a volunteer call me yesterday and want to know what my motivation was. Like, he was like, before I invest myself in this organization, I need to know where you're coming from, was what I felt. He was like, okay, you deserve my energy. And I, of course, asked him about his motivations, and we had a good interaction. But and he was like, okay, ready to go.
Yeah, that is another reason that it's important to be clear on your own self-interest. And one of the steps of a proposition, I don't know that we really dwelled on it, but saying to them why it's in your self-interest to have them participate in this role as well is something that is often encouraged during propositions, so that they're clear on why you want them doing it in the first place and are not questioning your motives, you know? So yeah, that seems like it's an unusual question because most volunteers don't ask that, but I am certain that there are a lot of volunteers who don't ask who still have it in their mind. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and Tony, I think that is like that good point of making sure for me to say, I'm asking you to do this because I want to see you doing this.
Because I have faith in you.
Then work
Yeah.
needs done, and I think you're the right person for it, as opposed to I'm asking you to do this because someone asked me to ask you to do this.
Or I'm asking you to do this because I believe you'll be great at it.
Yeah.
Not even because it needs to be done.
Yeah.
All right. And any other tensions before we move on? All righty. Okay. Then political learning for me. For me, it is always useful to sit in on like the same trainings because there's always something that pops up that I had forgotten about from the previous time, you know? And so just having these reminders and having DeMarco, who's an excellent trainer, to teach them is a gift. All right. And that is it for our evaluation. So thank you all for coming to this training. DeMarco, thank you for being here to do this training. And we'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right.
All right.
All right. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.